Hello and welcome to an episode that you're listening to right now of That's Absurd, Please Elaborate. This is a show where we answer questions that people send in, and they send the silly things, and we do the science things, and you end up with a show. That's it. That's pretty much the whole synopsis. My name is Trace Dominguez. I'm a science communicator.
We're not even trying for the new people anymore. We're not even, for people who are listening, we're like, we expect that you've been here a while. You know what's up. Anyway, and welcome, I guess, if you're new. I'm Julian Huguet, by the way.
Well, if you are new to this show...
We appreciate if you're new. Yeah, genuinely.
Thank you for being here. Normally, we are more tightened and buttoned and up than that, but we're not. We're usually not.
Normally we got tighter butts than that, but this...
But we do know what we're talking about, and so send us your questions that are silly or off the wall or whatever, and we will answer them. If you want to send us a question, go down into the show notes. You can find any number of different ways to send us questions, from emailing them, texting them, calling, voicemailing, or whatever. If we choose your question, then we will reach out to you so that you can read it live, sort of live to tape, on the air, and then we will answer it as best that we can. It's really fun. So first question this week is from science communicator extraordinaire Julian Huguet.
Thank you, Trace Dominguez. My question this week was sent in by Ard and selected by our patrons over on Patreon. This was the poll-winning question, which, by the way, I thought there were some real good ones in this poll, and it just goes to show I have no clue what our audience wants at any given time.
It's better that we don't know, I think.
It is,
sometimes.
yeah. It's fun and surprising, although I may dig in some of those ones that were not selected. I'm like, this is a really good one, though. But the question from Ard, the poll winner, as selected by fellow listeners, was, can you bonsai any living things other than trees or shrubs?
Oh, interesting. Mm-hmm. I don't know what bonsaiing is as a verb.
Great.
I mean, I've seen it in movies. It's like teeny tiny trees, but I don't know what...
I seriously have a note that I'm like, is bonsai a verb?
I mean...
No, it's not. But anyway.
It is now. Look, I can bonsai something, and I know what I did.
I bonsai, you bonsai, he, she, they bonsais, you know.
I think they bonsai.
They bonsai.
Also, bonsai, great single-person band name. Like, I'm bonsai.
Right.
It's like
a mononym.
It's like a prince-esque figure, I feel like. Somebody svelte, but also very flashy dressed. You know, like a Bowie. Bonsai.
Is it one word or two, though? You know how people are like, Bon Jovi? Is Bon Jovi one word or two?
No, Bon Jovi's 2 words.
Okay.
His first name is Bon. His last name is Jovi.
John Bon Jovi's first name is Bon. I think you might be lying to me.
His middle name is Bon.
You almost had me there for a sec. Okay, but Art includes some context. He says, hey, Julian and Trace, I grow and keep bonsai as a hobby. Not the IKEA kind, but the Japanese kind, where you use special techniques to grow a tree or shrub or other woody plant to look like its normal-sized and old counterparts, while keeping it small. I was wondering if it's possible to grow any other living thing in a similar way to keep it small, but still keep it healthy and functioning like it should. Bonsai human? Let's not get into the ethics of it all, though. We will, though. We will. You brought up bonsai human.
I feel like bonsai humans, we do have to get into the ethics of.
Yeah, I'm not going to skate by that, but I appreciate it. You're trying to make my life easier.
It was a nice out that they gave you. Be like, look, there's an emergency exit here after you dismember the person, if you want to use it. Very Dexter of them.
Okay, also, IKEA bonsai?
I had to just Google it while you were talking, and it is a thing. Apparently, it's a cool little, it's just a bonsai tree, but it's a different kind of tree.
I thought it might be a furniture name.
Yeah.
You know?
No, then it would be like, I think Ektorp is a real one, but... So bonsai doesn't have enough hard consonants.
Yeah.
It either needs an umlaut or some kind of diacritical mark or a hard consonant. And if it has neither, it can't be an IKEA piece.
Yes, exactly.
Those are the rules, I think.
I was looking through their catalog looking for bonsai, but like the furniture. No, you're right. It's like also a tree.
How did Leven say to pronounce the letter that is the O with the line through it? I've already forgotten.
I don't remember. I will never learn. I learned 26 letters as an English speaker, and I'm done. That's it for me forever.
All you gotta do.
I don't care if your language even has one or two more in the alphabet, like in Spanish. Nope, that's it. I got 26. I will make everything fit into that.
What letters could we get rid of? Somebody asked that question. I want to know what letters we don't need anymore. Can we get rid of some?
W already feels redundant. It's just taking another letter.
We're not answering that question.
Twice
We're not,
that. Anyway.
I want to know about bonsais.
When we had MJ Wu on from Everything is Public Health, I was like, did you ever tell people your last name is spelled triple U? And he was like, no, and that's dumb. But anyway, that's how I saved his name in my phone. Okay. So... is there, as you bring up, a specific definition of bonsai? And, I mean, of course
I would
there is.
assume there is, right? Like a specific type of tree of a specific age or something. I don't know.
Well, you know, that is where you're wrong. It's not a specific type of tree. And again, you know, Ard does this as a hobby. I'm sure Ard has a lot more information and knowledge on this than me. I just, you know, looked this all up and tried to compile some notes. So if I get anything wrong, Ard, apologies. But from what I can tell, bonsai trees aren't a specific species or group of species of tree. They don't have to be like trees that are only from Japan. They can just be really any plant species with a woody stem or trunk and some other characteristics that we'll get to. But bonsai originated in China around the year 700. That's when we see the first depictions of like tiny potted plants in artwork and stuff. And the word in Japanese literally translates to planting something in a tray or a shallow bottomed container.
So it's like potted plant.
Yeah.
So you're telling me all the times when people are like trying to be fancy and they're like, oh, have you seen my bonsai? And, you know, I'm picturing some like 80s, you know, Wall Street bro being like, oh, I'm super into bonsai right now. And then they're literally, their Japanese friend is just like hearing, I'm super into potted plant right now.
Yeah, basically, right? Like it reminds me of, you know, the Cyanide and Happiness webcomic?
Yes.
Some of the creators are personal friends that used to watch D News.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
And I got like a little sneak peek of a game that they were making. And they had a character that was like one of those obnoxious know-it-all characters. And he's got like some Japanese kanji on his wall that, you know, the game artists just made. And because I know a little Japanese, I was like, that just says Wednesday. That's perfect.
That's excellent. Wednesday.
Suyobi, just Wednesday on your wall.
Why not? Maybe it's always Wednesday.
Yeah.
For him.
Ooh, maybe it has some deep meaning to him, or at least he thinks it does. Anything, like I said, can be planted in a shallow dish, shallow container. And then with some other characteristics, it can be a bonsai tree. Now, apparently, as I was researching this, there are a lot of myths around bonsai trees. So I thought we could do a little quiz show.
What?
Kyle, can you insert some copyright-free quiz show music?
Oh, I'm dancing to the quiz show music that I'm hearing in my head.
Oh, yeah, great.
Oh, yeah, quiz show music. I love the quiz show
great
music.
Find, Kyle. Thanks.
Yeah, that was good.
Okay, it's time to play Bonsai or Bonsai.
Oh, wow.
Or alternate name Bonsai or Nonsai.
Oh, I like that. What about bonsai or die? Da, 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 da.
It's very dramatic. I would.
Yeah.
The penalty of getting it wrong is death.
Of one of your limbs.
All right, Trace, true or false? There is no genetic difference between a bonsai tree and its full-sized counterpart.
Bonsai.
That's right, it's true. Bonsai trees aren't usually genetically dwarfed, although there are reasons maybe to use a genetically dwarfed variant that we'll get to. But usually, it's just that tree species in a small pot with some certain restrictions to stunt its growth. And if you were to take a seed from a bonsai tree and plant it in the ground, it'll grow to be a normal tree. Or you could even take a current living bonsai tree, replant it, and it can grow to a full-size tree.
Wow, that's amazing. I didn't know that. I thought,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I sort of knew that it was a little tree that had been cut back, but anyway, I'm sure you'll get into it.
By the way, credit to the Backpacking Biologist YouTube channel that interviewed a bonsai grower and was the source for a lot of this research. He made an excellent video on this, so I want to give him a shout out because thanks. He did a lot of legwork for me that helped me really as a starting point. So, yes, bonsai trees, they're not genetically dwarfed. They're just the same as the full-size counterpart usually, and there are multiple techniques used to keep them small. Part of it being planting them in that shallow container, the bon part of the word bonsai. But the roots can also be trimmed if they're starting to get too large for the pot, and that restricts nutrient uptake. And the soil composition is also intentionally nutrient poor. So because of this, you're restricting the growth. It's just literally not enough nutrients to grow larger. And then on top of that, the bonsai artists, in order to mimic full-size tree, they'll sculpt the tree. They'll like wrap it with wire to bend it and shape it how they want. And the goal is, again, to recreate a full-sized, old, weathered, beautiful tree in miniature. And the key to that is keeping things proportional, which means your leaves also have to be proportional, right?
Right.
So how do they achieve that? It's time for Bonsai or Nonsai round 2. Bonsai or Nonsai? Bonsai leaves have the same number of cells as full-size leaves, but the cells are shrunken down.
Nonsai?
That is correct!
Yay! Oh, wow. I was like, maybe?
A 1989 paper titled, Why Are Bonsai Plants Small? A Consideration of Cell Size. Don't you love it when you find exactly what you're looking for?
I do indeed.
Found that cells of bonsai tree leaves, they're not smaller. Actually, in 4 of the 6 species that the researchers studied, they were bigger than those of normal trees.
Interesting.
So why then do they grow proportionally smaller? Well, it's because at the tips of shoots, and also at the roots, but we're going to focus on the shoots here, there are what are called apical meristems, which are undifferentiated stem cells. And these can differentiate into the plant's different organs, leaves, flowers, fruits. When you restrict the nutrients as a bonsai artist, these meristematic cells don't grow as fast. Fewer cells differentiate into the leaf buds, and so the leaves grow proportionally smaller. There's just less material allocated to become leaves. Okay, now that brings us, though, to the other organs that I mentioned, flowers, fruits. Bonsai or nonsai?
Oh, bonsai or nonsai?
Are they proportionally smaller?
Bonsai!
That is incorrect! Bonsai!
Oh.
Amazingly, the flowers and fruits of bonsai trees, they still grow full size. There's some pictures of these bonsai trees that are flowering, and it's kind of striking because the flowers look so proportionally large. They're beautiful. Do you want to see some? I think I have
do.
some. I'm going to link to you a page from Bonsai Empire, which was another very useful source for this, of some flowering bonsai trees. And look at them. They're so beautiful.
Ooh, they are so pretty. Wait, the flowers are huge. These ones are really huge. This bougainvillea was hard to tell, but wow, the Satsuki Azalea Bonsai Festival. This one looks very nice. These are pretty. It looks like a tree, like a miniature, very old tree, but the flowers look like regular size flowers. So the illusion of the tree is that it's very small, but the flowers then would be gigantic, like the size of huge pumpkins instead of like
dreamy, right? If you imagine like gigantic flowering tree.
Yeah, wow, really interesting.
So if you're a bonsai artist and you want a fruiting tree, that is something that you have to keep in mind, that the fruits are still going to be full size.
Full size.
So when you have like a big old apple off a teeny tiny tree, it kind of ruins the illusion.
Yeah, imagine a fruiting tree.
Yeah. Now, I couldn't find a source that talked about why this might be. I have some assumptions, which would be, the flowers and fruits of the plant are really essential for reproduction, and so the plant allocates more resources to that, but I can only speculate. But still, nonetheless, if you're a bonsai tree artist, it's something to keep in mind, because you're going to get maybe a big apple on a teeny tiny tree, and it's going to break that illusion of it being a full-size tree in miniature.
It's a gigantic apple. And you're just like, wow, what an amazingly huge apple.
Yes, it's like James and the Giant Peach, but James is actually tiny.
Right.
And the peach is regular size. So
right.
it's a tiny James and the regular sized peach.
Tiny James and the regular peach.
Also, that stop motion animation movie gave me so many nightmares as a kid. Anyway.
Oh.
I accidentally stumbled onto that. That was some childhood trauma we just dug up. Okay. Moving on. Okay, so bonsai artists then will select trees that maybe grow small fruits like crabapple trees, or like I said, that sometimes there are genetically different trees, and this is one of those instances. Maybe you have like a dwarf pomegranate tree where the fruits are naturally smaller, and so they look correct on a bonsai tree.
Wow, that's wild.
These are, I think, the general rules for a bonsai tree, right? It's not genetically different. It's just got restricted nutrients. And so its growth is smaller. But if you were to put it in like a natural environment with access to more nutrients, it would grow to a fuller size, right?
It would just be like,
oh my goodness, thank you.
Gosh.
Yes.
It was so tight in there.
Oh, I was in an itty bitty living space.
Yeah.
So let's tackle Art's question now.
Yeah.
Can you do this to other living organisms?
Oh.
Now, the first place my mind went to was the Channel Islands.
Really? Wow. That's the first place your mind went to?
Yes.
Not to, if I feed my kid less food, will he be smaller?
That's the second place my mind went to, and we will get to that. But the first place I went to was probably because I rewatched Step Brothers recently, and I was thinking of the Catalina wine mixer. But also, I think it's cool that just off the coast of where I live, down here in Southern California, there are these islands, the Channel Islands, where there used to be mammoths.
Big ones?
No.
Oh!
That's the whole idea.
Cool!
They were tiny ones.
I honestly had no idea. I
feel like you led me right to it, though.
No,
of course you knew.
I mean, I knew that we were gonna, but I just... I was picturing them, and I thought, if they're very big, but the islands aren't very big.
But islands small.
But there's this thing called island rule, where animals that live on islands tend to grow larger than they should, which is why we end up with very large animals on places like the Galapagos, which is cool.
You're thwarting me at every turn. You know exactly where I'm going all the time. No, you're right. There is something called insular dwarfism, and it's a trend. It's not a hard and fast rule, but there's this recurring pattern of animals that live on islands, if they're related to some very large animals from the mainland, over evolutionary time, they get smaller. And on the Channel Islands, there was, back in the Pleistocene era, a species of dwarf mammoth. Whereas the mainland mammoths were 4 meters tall, the ones on the Channel Islands were just 2 meters tall. So literally half the size.
Human size. That's like not quite pet sized, but like, you know, I'm 2 meters tall. So like me height. I could ride it.
Yes, exactly. Or you know, high five its trunk at a reasonable height. I don't know.
Keep it in my backyard for fun.
Have the neighbors complain that it's ruining their wine mixer.
No, Chester's not ruining anything. He's fine. He's fine. Chester the dwarf mammoth? Come on.
Mammoth.
Yeah,
that sounds so cute. I love it.
Chester would be fine. He's a very nice guy.
He's a good mammoth.
He's a good mammoth, and he's my friend.
Yes. So there are ideas as to why this happens. We don't know for sure, but the thinking is it's kind of analogous to a bonsai tree in a smaller pot with less nutrients. On an island, you have less access to food that you do on the mainland, right? The area's constricted, and so you've got to work with what you got. It may be advantageous to grow smaller naturally. And also, there might be fewer predators. So when you're larger, that's an advantage to help survive predators. If they're not there, then you don't need to be as big. So the evolutionary pressures push a lot of animals to reduce in size. It's happened with mammoths. It's happened with elephants. It's happened with hippopotamuses. It happens a lot. But conversely, like you mentioned, sometimes smaller animals also grow larger. And that's what kind of breaks this bonsai analogy for me with putting something on an island, right? It's not necessarily that things will grow smaller. Imagine if you put a tree in a tiny pot and then it grew 3 times its normal size.
Yeah, that would be bad.
Yeah, I would be like, there's something weird is going on here.
But that is counterintuitive, but that's why it stood out in my head as like, they tend to grow big. But I guess I never really thought about it as like big things tend to grow small and small things tend to grow big.
Yeah.
That makes sense because they would normally be restricted. I don't know. Interesting.
There's that convergence. Who knows exactly why? Apparently there's some debate and people still aren't sure. And all we know is it seems to be a trend that happens. But then I thought about, okay, if I'm just going to go just like how bonsai artists do it and limit the nutrients of another living creature that's not a plant, say a human, would I get smaller humans? And the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Low height for age is known as stunting, and it's the result of chronic or recurrent undernutrition or infection. It's usually associated with poor socioeconomic conditions, poor maternal health and nutrition, frequent illness, and or inappropriate infant and young child feeding and care in early life. This has more effects than just making the human's body smaller. It also impacts their cognitive ability. It can lead to poor performance academically, poor socioeconomic performance throughout their life, and unfortunately, it can also be cyclical in nature, where because somebody has had their growth stunted early on and they grow up smaller, they also have poor nutrition when they are, say, bearing children and raising them, and you get the cyclical growth. And so I think that also falls short of our bonsai fun facts definition, where you could take a bonsai seed and plant it normally and then get a full-sized tree. This generational nature that stunting can have, I don't know if that's quite bonsai either. But I did want to talk about it because Ard kind of casually skated by the ethical implications, and I don't want to do that.
Famine is bad. It's bad.
Famine is bad.
Famine is bad.
Linear growth failure, which is another term for stunting, is the most prevalent form of undernutrition globally. There's a debate over whether children who become stunted before age 24 can catch up in both their growth and in their cognitive ability later in life. We're not sure, but many of these effects appear to be irreversible. One last bonsai or non-sai myth for you, and that is bonsai artists are harming the tree, that what they're doing is cruel. Bonsai or non-sai?
Non-sai.
Yes, that is correct. That's a non-sai. According to my wife's botany professor, Dr. Paula Schiffman, she would tell students all the time, when you're going out and you're collecting samples of plants and you're just, pulling a branch off of them or collecting a sample or something, don't feel bad about it. Plants don't care. Plants don't feel the way humans and other organisms and living animals feel. They're plants. They'll deal with it. They're hardy. When you talk to bonsai artists, they'll tell you the same thing. The tree's not being harmed when it's being wrapped in these wires and when its nutrition is being stunted. They take what they're given and they still survive and thrive because they're adaptable, they're hardy. Sometimes they grow this way naturally in nature even. Sometimes they're just in places with poor nutrients and they adapt. Human beings, animals, it's not the same thing, right? When you are stunting the growth of a human or an animal by intentionally denying it nutrients, you're impacting its quality of life in a way that's harmful to it physically and mentally. You shorten their lives, you worsen their outcomes. Bonsai trees are not like that. Bonsai trees can actually live to be older than their natural counterparts, live longer because they are actually, paradoxically, well cared for and attended to because they're beautiful works of art that are loved and appreciated. And so...
like me.
Yes, you're a work of art, and I appreciate
that's loved and appreciated.
I sure hope so. You are. In my book, you are.
Thanks, man.
You're my extra large bonsai tree.
Yeah, you don't trim me physically, just emotionally.
So, to wrap up Art's question, can you bonsai things in the sense that things will be smaller if denied nutrition and space to grow? Yes, that does happen. Is it exactly like a bonsai tree? I wouldn't say so, and I would discourage you from doing it. Please feed children, I guess is where I'm landing at the end of all this.
Seems like that would be a good thing
Please
to
give
remember.
children food.
Children deserve food.
I would like them to have food, please.
Adults too, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that their children also can not be shrunken and have poor quality of life.
Yeah. It's a sad thing to end on. But at the same time, bonsais are very interesting. And I was actually curious once you posed the question, like, could you do this with other living things? And now I realize that trees have these cyclical growth cycle. We and other animals usually grow a lot early in their lives and then stay that size, whereas trees are like constantly getting bigger all the time.
Exactly.
So I imagine you could bonsai like a lobster. I wouldn't, because it just keeps growing. I wouldn't do it.
Well, reptiles have indeterminate growth, right? They can keep growing throughout their lives.
Salamanders or whatever, the axolotls, and they'll grow their arms back anyway, you know? Like, I don't know. I don't think we would do that. I feel unethical about all of those. However, it is an interesting thought experiment, which is what this show is about.
Bonsai!
Bonsai! On that note, let's take a break and come back with another question. Julian, give me your best dinosaur roar.
Oh God, an asteroid! It's horrible!
Wow, that was not where I expected that to go. We're popping in before the show to tell you about I Know Dino. It's a dinosaur podcast.
You know, we think of those dinosaurs being this thing that's been dead for tens of millions of years. Even so, studying dinosaurs can still teach us stuff that is relevant to the world today.
Yeah, like climate models to help us understand global warming.
Migration patterns of dinosaur lineages, they tell us about Earth's changing continents.
We can also study dinosaur diets, what plants lived then, and maybe what animals and how they interact.
And, this is super cool, many dinosaur injuries, paleopathologies, they're the first known occurrences of diseases.
And they talk about all this kind of stuff on I Know Dino. It comes out every week with new dinosaur stories that you're not going to hear anywhere else. Like, I hadn't heard of a lot of these, which is pretty cool.
You can find I Know Dino on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever podcasts are. And if you found us, you can probably find them. Go check them out. All right, welcome back. I hope you are well-rested, fed, and watered. And now it's time, Trace, for your question.
Yeah, my question comes from Dala, who sent us a voicemail. She called us on the phone.
Hi, my name is Dala. I am from the Bay Area, and since I'm 17, I'm still at that age where teachers ask you icebreakers, like, oh, what kind of superpower would you have if you could have one? And, you know, people usually answer, like, telepathy or, like, you know, like mental communication, that kind of stuff. My question is, if we could, hypothetically, have telepathy and, like, transmit thoughts to one another, would that work? Because on a brain scan, you have, like, your synapses and, like, your neurons firing, but, like, just being a person, like, how could you interpret that? Not being a neural network, that, like, not being, like, an AI, how would you be able to interpret those as, like, words? Like, would you be able to, like, translate that, like, well into a quote-unquote inside or, like, internal voice? Or would you be stuck with, like, fuzzy images like they have in those, like, trained AI models that, like, read brains or something? I don't know. And, like, if you wanted to communicate with someone else and push your thoughts to them, what would you have to do if you could do that? Would they understand you? I don't know. Maybe everyone's brain is structured differently. This is really rambly. I'm sorry. I hope you have a good day. Bye.
Firstly, Dala, amazing. I love that you're just like thinking it through while asking the question. You ask a great question, and then you're just like, but what about this? And what about that? Way to go. Good thinking. Love that. Love using our brains.
Second, I have a prediction, Trace.
Oh.
I bet this one was really, really hard to research.
Actually, it wasn't.
Really?
It was really, really fun because it turns out there has been a lot of science about telepathy.
What?
Yes.
No.
I am going to give you a little hint. There was telepathy on the Apollo mission, but we're going to come back to it.
What?
Yep. Anyway, so telepathy, for those who are maybe unaware, I don't know like how you would be, but maybe you are. Transmission of information between individuals without using the normal five senses is the typical definition. The etymology is from the Greek of tele, distant, and path, which is occurrence or feeling. So you have like a feeling from far away. And the reason I bring that up is because that is very important. The idea of telepaths have existed since ancient times, but it started out as like emotions and dreams more than it did like what Dala's talking about. And we got to that much later, which I'll come back to. But in 2000 BCE, the ancient Egyptians engaged in what they called dream incubation to get messages from the gods to solve problems and give insights, which is really neat. They would go sleep in a temple and be like, oh, the god's gonna, because there are like hundreds of Egyptian gods. So they go find a temple and they're like, I'm gonna sleep here, and then this god is gonna give me some information that I need to solve my problems.
Okay, I see the logic in it.
Ancient Greek philosopher Democritus thought that people could send emotionally charged images to sleeping people.
Wait.
Which is pretty cool.
Is he famous for something else?
I don't think anybody practices anything else that he's famous for. Just the atomic theory of the universe.
Yeah. He's the guy who came up with atoms.
No, I don't think anybody cares about what that guy thinks. The atomic theory of the universe.
Wow.
Yeah.
You never hear about his lesser-known telepathy ideas.
And turns out, a lot of scientists have this same thing, and you're like, again, Apollo mission. Anyway, real little bit of a like telepathy sidebar. You know about oracles, right? In ancient Greece, you know you've heard about the oracles.
Yes, I have.
Do you know what they are? Like, do you know how they work?
It's a tech company that's worth a ton of money, but I'm not totally sure why.
Owns a basketball thing.
If you're in the Bay Area, that was a joke just for Dala.
They have a big boat down there in San Mateo.
No, but oracles were like soothsayers, right? But famously, in the classic Greek tradition, they do that ambiguous soothsaying stuff, right? Where like maybe a general from a city-state's gonna go and ask them like, what's gonna happen in this battle? And they're like, oh, if you go to battle, a great civilization will be destroyed. And the general means like, that means I'm gonna win. And then actually he loses. That thing of like, they can never be wrong. You know?
It's
like
that's
scopes.
really, Yeah, interesting. Horoscope's a good example, too. Okay, so I went on a little rabbit hole of oracles because I thought it was really interesting. And it does connect back to telepathy in the traditional sense. Because the idea of these oracles is that they were getting telepathy from the gods. Like, they were mouthpieces of some other being somewhere else. So yeah, again, oracles in ancient Greece were like future seers, soothsayers, fortune tellers. They would interpret omens, and they often would just be like, go have a festival or sacrifice something and be fine. They would talk to leaders and priests and all stuff, and they would be like, go build a new temple, leader person. The most famous is the oracle at the Temple of Apollo at Delphi. That was the one that had the most written about them. Oracles as a practice existed for about 1,000 years, which is hundreds of thousands of potential predictions, and there's only like a few hundred written down. Which is pretty interesting. It was initially, by the way, young maidens were the oracles because they were married to Apollo. Then there were some scandals, so they switched to more matronly figures, which I thought was typical. And then,
oh boy, humans, we really don't change,
we're
do we?
Basically the same.
This is always scandals with the young maidens.
Yeah.
We keep doing that.
And they would sit in their temple and they would provide, like you said, kind of these ambiguous statements to important people. So there was this guy, Atation, who was a childless leader guy, and he had his wife, Labda, and he wrote down what the oracle said, which is, no one honors thee now, Atation, worthy of honor. Labda shall soon be a mother, her offspring a rock, that will one day fall on the kingly race and the right city of Corinth. And another guy got a prophecy related to, quote, how an eagle shall bear a carnivorous lion, which shall loosen the arms of many. And they talked to each other and they were like, whoa, we need to kill Ation's baby.
Yeah, that's what I got from all that.
Yeah,
for sure.
And so there was this
There's
huge
only
thing.
one conclusion, and that is infanticide.
Yeah, they were like, look, Labda's rock that will one day fall on a kingly race in the right city of Corinth. We can't have that. We got to kill that little baby.
That baby.
And so it caused all these problems.
I think these people were looking for an excuse to kill a baby.
Maybe they were.
If I had to go out on a limb.
Also, I'm still on my sidebar here just for another minute.
Okay.
550 BCE, King Croesus of Lydia asked 7 famous oracles to reveal what he was doing on a given day. as like a test, which I thought was cool because there's not a lot of tests of oracles. It seemed very uncouth to like ask one oracle a question and then go to a different oracle and ask them the same question. That was like not done.
But from an oracle.
Yeah. Just be like, oh, we should probably get a sampling. Nope. They just ask one and then that's the one they get, which is interesting. And the oracle got it right.
Yeah, but what was it easy? Was it like, oh, you're gonna drink wine or something? Like typical Greek stuff. I don't know.
I mean, Croesus was making a lamb and turtle stew in a bronze kettle, and she guessed it right.
Oh, okay. But I mean, first of all, it's not like there's a lot of choices of kettle material.
That kettle material is totally
There's only bronze.
It's like if I said Julian was making eggs in a pan.
Yeah,
it's
right.
Like a regular
for breakfast. Pan. Oh wow, shocker!
Yeah, it's just specific enough.
What
but
kind
also
of turtle and
not.
what?
Turtle and lamb.
Okay. Maybe that was his favorite dish and everybody knew it. I'm a skeptic. Far be it from me to question the wisdom of the oracle, but
I don't think you're actually questioning the wisdom of the oracle in this case. I think what you're doing is questioning, like we have talked about many times on this show, the propaganda of history.
Right.
Where rich, famous people are like, this amazing thing happened to me, and that's why I'm going to do this. And
yes,
it's like,
and that's proof I was chosen by God or whatever,
right,
know?
Maybe you just wanted to do
maybe
that.
You wanted to kill the baby again.
Be skeptical of the... Don't just kill the baby. You just wanted to kill the baby.
Stop making excuses to kill the baby.
To kill babies. We don't need it.
I don't care what the oracle says.
Don't kill the babies.
Don't kill the baby.
It's not good. So even historians who are like writing about this, and there are papers, a lot of them about it, and one paper from Yale, they wrote, quote, "It will probably never be known whether Apollo's oracle at Delphi was a sincere undertaking or just a spectacular deception." And I want you to keep that in mind when we talk about what we know about telepathy. So, oracles were getting this communication unseen between the gods and them. By the way, it wasn't just Europeans doing this. The Mahabharata was an ancient Indian text about the struggle between two clans, probably about 400 BCE. And this main character, Sanjaya, was getting Divya Dirishti, a divine vision, from a sage, so he could see like a battle and relate it to a blind king and stuff. So there were lots of these like remote viewing telepathy stories throughout history, but they were all pretty samey and mostly about like dreams or emotions or strong like important events for thousands of years, up until about the 19th century during the Victorian spiritualism trend, which, if you don't know, was kind of a big deal. Seances, crystal balls, tarot cards, clairvoyance, psychics, all of that we still carry in culture today mostly comes from the late 19th century Victorian period as like a pop culture thing. In 1882, a British poet and spiritualist named Frederick Myers coined the term telepathy. Wrote it into his writings. By the way, he was probably bi. It's Bi Visibility Month. What up? And the reason I say that, just without getting too detailed for those listening with the youngs, in college we called it doing taxes. You know, when two adults would like go upstairs together, we would call that they're going to go do taxes. So they're going to do their taxes right now. So in case
adult activities. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, adult activities. They're doing their taxes. And so the reason I write that Friedrich was probably bi is because all of the writings avoided talking about him doing taxes with his guy friends, because they'd just be like, when he was young, he did taxes with several other notable writers and thinkers. Then he fell in love with a woman and married her and did taxes with her. And I'm just like, okay, so he's bi? I don't like, why are we talking about like he had a bunch of male friends when he was a kid that he liked to hang out with? And I'm just like, oh, history. Anyway, Myers coined the word telepathy, and you know this word because this guy who loves to do taxes with both men and women also founded the Society for Psychical Research, SPR. Have you heard of this?
No.
It's huge. There were like 1,000 members. Some of them were very well known, like Alfred Lord Tennyson, Pierre Curie, a future prime minister, Sigmund Freud. Like, people who were famous thinkers were part of the Society for Psychical Research or fans of it. Scientists who would join this and talk about telepathy and seances and spiritualism. And so Myers, again, he's really a poet and a spiritualist and gentleman kind of person, investigated telepathy by asking a sender in one room to
you already told me he's bi. That's kind of redundant.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Yeah.
He asked a sender in one room to transmit a 2-digit number, a taste, or an image to a receiver in a different room. And sometimes the person in the receiving room got it right. I don't know. The scientists are like, broken clocks are right twice a day.
Right.
But the science continued and more important, kind of more, let's say, disciplined scientists started to get into this as well. Like, as I mentioned, Mr. Siggy Freud, a Viennese psychoanalyst and star of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. So he theorized that telepathy might be an ancient primitive sense that we lost during evolution. We lost it during evolution.
Sure.
He actually described some cases involving transfer of thoughts at a conference, and I found a paper in German from August of 1921 of him describing it and them writing it down, which is just awesome. There were 3 cases. I'm just going to tell you the best one, really. Case study of a German philosopher who wanted to do some taxes with his younger sister. The sister met a man and got married, and the older bro was not happy. So he went to the fortune teller, and he gave her the husband's birth date when she asked him. And she said that he, thinking it was the husband, would die of seafood poisoning by the next July or August. The next August, the husband was poisoned by crab, but did not die.
Half points then.
This was a big deal. So Freud says the older brother must have telepathically told the fortune teller his death wish for the husband. And so that's why she did it and told him that. That was literally a synopsis of his conclusion.
So, again, the more respected scientist's conclusion is telepathy probably.
Telepathy, a fortune teller
with a fortune
predicted
teller.
Someone would die. They didn't die.
Again, like how the Bronze Age cookware was probably bronze. I feel like 1920s German seafood, the odds of getting an illness are high.
Apparently the brother was a huge fan of seafood and everybody knew this as well.
Yeah.
And also...
Wait, no, seriously?
Yeah.
Well then, duh!
I know. We're taking also out of this, the brother was told by a fortune teller that he would die in August, and then he died of poisoning but didn't die all the way. And the brother had nothing to do with it? He wasn't there? He wasn't at that meal? Like, there's no information about where the brother was during the poisoning that happened to happen near the end of the window that he was told the year before. Anyway, here's what Freud thought. Quote, I'm going to translate it and not use my silly German accent. It teaches us that not just any piece of indifferent knowledge communicated itself to a second person through induction, but rather that an extraordinarily strong wish of a person, which stood in a special relationship to their consciousness, was able to create conscious expression in light disguised with the help of a second person. Long story short, you feel something real strong, you can push it onto other people.
This is Freud going, he manifested that.
He
in the
manifested
modern
it.
Parlance.
Honestly, yeah, he manifested it. And that was the first thing I found kind of describing Dala's question, which is, what would it feel like to be a telepath? How would you do it? You have a really strong feeling. You just kind of like think it real hard, and someone else gets the inkling. It doesn't feel like anything. It feels like intuition. It feels like, oh, I'm picking this up from, when you're like, I think that Julian likes, if he's going to order ice cream, it's going to be strawberry. And it turns out you're right, what ice cream do you order, actually?
I mean, are we going classic single flavors? Or are we going Ben and Jerry's catalog?
Single. I mean, Ben and Jerry's, you're an American dream guy, because that's what I am.
Yeah, it's so good.
And that's part of it too.
It's so good.
Part of it is you're influenced by your own opinions and your own feelings. Anyway.
Yeah.
No, but really, do you like strawberry? Or?
I mean, it's fine, but I'd probably go vanilla or chocolate.
Yeah, well, both are good.
Yeah. Vanilla's the most popular flavor of ice cream in the world.
There's a reason. It's delicious and incredible.
Yeah.
And people are like, vanilla, that's boring.
It's
boring.
Like,
no. Historically, the reason it's the most... Anyway.
Have you bought a single vanilla bean? They cost $8.
They're so expensive.
They're so worth it.
Good vanilla is totally worth it. Highly recommend.
Yes.
So Duke University founded a parapsychology program not long after these 1920s, into the 1940s, 50s, 70s, and so on and so forth. So this guy named J.B. Rhine did some systematic experiments with just average people. You remember the beginning of the original Ghostbusters when Venkman is sitting in a parapsychology lab, and he's holding up a card, and you, as the audience, can see what's on the card, and he's asking the other person to tell him what's on the card.
Yeah.
Do you remember this scene? That's called a Zener card, and they have been used forever. They are actually, which I thought was kind of neat. That is something that Rhine used. He allegedly found evidence that it might be a thing, that telepathy might exist. Couldn't tell whether it was telepathy or clairvoyance or precognition, since you would show the person the card after they guessed it. But sometimes they would guess it right, and apparently they would guess it right ahead of chance. In a book in 1934 titled Extrasensory Perception, which is what coined the term ESP, they set up this whole idea and explained it, and they just explained it, again, to answer Dala's question, as a feeling, an intuition, that the person who answered the question correctly said, like Ray says in Ghostbusters, it just popped in there. It just felt it, and it happened. Rhine was a big deal in 1930s and 40s and then discredited because it turns out the participants might have been able to tell which card had which symbol by the back of the card because they reused the same cards, and the impressions of the printing on the card apparently was visible on the back.
Rigorous.
Not super rigorous. So then in 1971, Edgar Mitchell gets involved. You know who Edgar Mitchell is?
I do not.
Sound familiar? Yeah, well, maybe we should, because he was the 6th person to walk on the moon on Apollo 14.
Oh, this is where the Apollo thing comes in.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he got back from the moon, and he founded the Noetic Institute of Sciences in Northern California, and believed that consciousness and thought comes from the quantum realm, and we should pay attention to things like telepathy and parapsychology. I'm going to have you click on a link here, Julian.
Okay. I like that your message has click in caps.
Yeah,
so
it was
a
a reminder to me, Julian.
Okay.
I'm going to put this on our Instagram as well. Look at these cards. Very cool. These cards flew to the moon with Edgar Mitchell. It's an ESP note card used in flight during Apollo 14 in an unauthorized ESP experiment done in space. Isn't that awesome?
Yes. But how does it work?
So if you look at the symbols on the card, you'll notice that there are random numbers, essentially. Like on the left, it's 5512113334, and so on. And on the right, it was the notes. So like 1 means a star, 5 means an X, 4 means a circle. It's essentially Zener cards. But instead of bringing a bunch of cards, he's like, you don't need the cards. The point is that you have a known sequence that you both are using. And by both, I mean Edgar Mitchell in space and 4 psychics on Earth who were supposed to I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh. That were supposed to pick up his telepathic communication from Apollo 14.
That's
That's it? That's all you got to say?
I mean, okay, this is the kind of nerd I am. I'm immediately thinking of like the inverse square law, where like assuming telepathy is like radiating out in a spherical pattern, like the thought energy, then as it spreads out, it's going to weaken substantially over distance.
I think if I could channel Edgar Mitchell, I think he would say something like, you're thinking about it in the wrong way, that telepathy works in a quantum system, and so distance is not important.
Oh, okay. So we've got some sort of entanglement between our brains.
There's some magic.
It's
here.
not like radio waves. It's spooky action at a distance.
It's spooky action at a distance.
Okay. That's where my brain went. I'm like, what?
No, I get
the
it. I
signal
totally
be
get
so
it.
weak
Yes.
from what, over 200,000 miles away?
On top of that, Julian, they had a goal of doing this at the same time. So they'd calculated when on the mission he would have time for rest. He would do it before he would go to sleep at night. He would do it for about 6 minutes, a little more, actually. And I know that because he did 25 of these transmissions. Essentially, he had generated these 4 tables of 25 random numbers using numbers 1 to 5. And then in an interview with Cabinet Magazine, he describes this. He says, then I randomly assigned a Zener symbol to each number. I checked the particular table of random numbers, and I would think about that corresponding symbol for 15 seconds. He did 25 different transmissions. So 15 times 5 is about 6 minutes, a little more. And he would do that before he went to sleep 4 different times. Now, they had originally planned for him to do it 6 different times.
Was he the command module pilot just floating around the moon so he had like a lot of time?
No, he was.
Oh, okay. He was actually on the moon. Okay.
Yeah, he walked on the moon. He was 6th person to walk on the moon.
Wow. Incredible. Oh, yeah, you did mention that. All right. Sorry. Continue.
Because it would be Apollo 11, 12,
11,
14.
12, 14. Rest in peace, Jim Lovell.
So the goal was for 4 psychics to pick up these transmissions back on Earth, as I said, and they planned for 6, I don't know what to call them, thinking sessions? Like, I don't know. And the New York Times wrote this up because it leaked. One of the psychics leaked it to the press that this was happening, and it like took over the news of the mission. Like the Apollo 14 mission, they were like, landed on the moon, but unauthorized psychic experiments happening on the... And it turned out to be kind of a big deal, which Mitchell never really... He's just like, yeah, they were weird and silly about it. And I'm like... Dude.
No, I can see why NASA would be a bit peeved by this.
Apparently NASA was peeved, but also like he did it in his free time before he went to sleep.
Yeah, is he off the clock on the moon?
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway,
I feel like the whole time you're on the moon, you're on the clock.
Well, he was on his
for
way
NASA.
home. This was when they were on their way home.
Okay,
so he did
still,
it after they'd already launched.
The whole time you're in space, I gotta say.
You're working. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not. You still get free time. They get free time on the ISS. Let's not argue about it.
Okay.
Because you know that we probably agree in most of these ways.
Yes.
So what he did is he did these cards that I just sent you. These are the real cards that he really took.
All right, so there's 2 cards. On the left, there's a pink one, and it's got a bunch of columns that have numbers 1 through 5 in a pretty seemingly random order.
Yeah.
And then on the right, there's another green card. It says notes at the top. It's also got a grid with numbers, but also those symbols, like those cards that you brought up.
Yep. This is the card that Mitchell had with him in the Apollo spacecraft that he was doing his ESP experiments with.
Oh, it's one card. It's front and back. I see.
Yeah. And he kept track of which numbers he was thinking about and in focusing on at what times. But remember, I said they calculated when he would be doing it, but it launched 40 minutes late, and he worked more than he thought sometimes. And so he was only able to do 4 transmissions, even though 6 were planned. And the receivers just like didn't line up in their times with what he... And again, they said, that's fine. It's quantum. And I was like, okay. The receivers, 2 of them did 6 write-downs of the thinking sessions. One of them did 1. I guess they were busy. And one of them did 2. And they wrote down what they were, quote-unquote, picking up.
Yeah. I so not shocked that 2 of them were like, oh, yeah, I got a full 6.
Yeah,
what do you know?
Picked up the full 6.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you only did 4? Oh.
I don't know where I got them then. They must have come through twice.
Must have been somebody else on the moon was doing this.
You CC'd
A lot
me.
of people on the moon doing telepathy experiments, so there's some interference.
So 2 of the 4 recipients on Earth guessed the right symbol at the same time slot. 51 times out of the 200 individual 15-second thinky slots. That's a hit rate of 25.5%, which Mitchell said, picking randomly, you should only get 20%. And if you statistically evaluate the results, you're like, actually, there's not really any statistical
Yeah, are you still within
significance
2
here.
standard deviations is the thing.
No. Yeah, no. And so what Mitchell said in this interview is, no. You have to think about it as the psi missing result. Like they were consistently avoiding the correct answers, Julian. Not only were they getting it wrong, they were consistently getting it wrong because they were avoiding them because they were picking up the right answer and avoiding it.
For some reason. This is one
Which
of those...
in parapsychology is a significant result.
Yeah.
In the
wow.
field of
Everything
parapsychology.
supports my hypothesis. Isn't
It's
that
amazing. It's incredible.
Convenient? It turns out I can never be wrong if I make up the frickin' rules as I go.
Don't write down the wiggle. Don't write down the circle.
Yeah.
So again, though, Dala, telepathy was supposed to feel like intuition, but because the ESP appointments didn't line up with the receiver appointments, some of the receivers, because they wrote down when they wrote down there, were not just telepathy, but also precognition. Like they knew what he had they like wrote down things and then Edgar in space later thought them. And so again,
Well, you got to think of the time difference on the moon, you know.
You got to think in quantum. You're not thinking quantum, you guys.
They knew what he was going to say ahead of time, but also they intentionally picked other things.
I like that you've taken your glasses off.
I'm so frustrated.
This is published in the Journal of Parapsychology, which I read the paper and it was great. You guys, it was a hoot. So how about like two more of these, but not from Edgar. We'll go with other people. 1975, Project Stargate or Scangate. Well, it was written as Skinate, but anyway.
Well, they were avoiding the letters they meant to use.
Yeah. That's a statistically significant result.
Yeah.
They were exploring remote viewing. This is a real thing. It was parodied or homaged, I guess, by the film Men Who Stare at Goats. Remote viewing is what Eleven does in Stranger Things. It was funded from 1974 to 1995. The declassified CIA papers say during that entire time, which, again, 1974 to 1995, that's a minute. 21 years, no successes. 1974, the Gansfield experiment, very famous. The receiver person is placed in sensory deprivation in a comfy chair in a soundproof room with white noise headphones on, and then, for some reason, you're going to get a kick out of this, puts two halves of a ping pong ball on each eye, and then shines a red light on their face so they can't see.
You know,
I don't know why they just use blindfold.
We look back at all the weird rituals the Oracle of Delphi did, and we laugh.
Oh,
we're no better.
No, we're no better. You're right. You're totally right.
Same.
I don't know why.
We're the same dumb apes.
If one of the receivers was a young maiden, this would never have been published.
Yeah.
They'd have been like, you want to go do some
but
taxes?
Somebody's sneaking into the sensory deprivation tank. We got to get old maidens now.
Oh my God. Okay, well, the sender person is in a nearby room, and they are shown an image and asked to transmit it to the receiver. The receiver is then shown 4 images and asked which image they received, and they got it correct 34% of the time.
Out of how many different images?
4 images, so they should have a 25% chance of getting it right. They got it right 34% of the time, which still doesn't mean anything.
I ain't impressed. I ain't impressed.
80% of the time.
Oh,
yeah,
wow. The coin was
correct.
head 55 times out of 100? Wow, it doesn't mean anything.
Sorry, I need to maintain my objectivity. Okay, so I have some more. In 2005, Julian, parapsychology research recruited 50 people on an employment website. They did telepathy over the internet. They showed them 4 emails and asked them to predict which email would email them about a job.
Oh, in this
they
day
would
and age,
show them
none.
4 emails,
0.
and they'd be like, which one of these is going to email you about the potential job?
Okay.
43% of them guessed correctly. And now this one I just couldn't abide, because what were the emails? Were they random letters and numbers? Was one like, I do taxes at AOL.com, and the other one was Charles White at Outlook? I'm going to pick Charles White at Outlook. Anyway.
Right. Yeah.
Picking someone's email, of course you're going to get it right. There's professional emails and non-professional emails. Now, if they were all just like first name, last name at Gmail, all of them, even then you're going to be like, well, it's not going to be Candy Lovebottom. It's going to be Bob Boberson. Anyway, 2005 was not even the most recent one I found. 2008, researcher in room A drew a picture. In room B was a mentalist, which is like a magician. And then in room C was a control person. Actually thought that was kind of cool. Both of the people, the researcher in room A drew a picture, and both of the people in rooms B and C were asked to draw the picture that they received from the researcher. How do you feel about this so far?
And they got it right 10% of the time. I don't know. What is it?
I'm going to send you, here's the investigator's picture. You can click on it, okay, and describe it for our audience.
Okay, so it's an abstract set of shapes. There's like a square with a circle inside of it, and then a random pattern breaking up the circle within that.
Right. Great. Here's the mentalist's image.
Interesting. It's a square with random lines breaking up the interior of the square.
Right.
What about the control?
The control did not even get close.
Oh, okay.
It was like they didn't even get close to what it is. And so I was like, oh, they better show me the images. So I had to really dig and find this paper. It was from a university in India. I still don't think it's good validation in that they should have known, like the researcher should have had specific pictures that they were set to draw. And then like, I'm going to draw 5 different pictures that we, the researchers, have determined are neutral or interesting enough that with enough detail, but not too much detail in specific ways. And maybe they did that, but I didn't see it in the paper because this, you know what this looks like to me? A grate. Or you could have seen images like this in a lab. This could be a petri dish. It could it's a circle with lines in it that are little squares.
I'll also
it could be anything.
Like a mentalist's whole bit.
Thank you, Julian. That's exactly where I was going to go.
Figuring out what you're doing based on clues that they can pick up without you noticing it, and then acting like they received that information telepathically.
Yes.
They practice it. You know who's a mentalist that we have a tangential connection to?
Oh, I was going to say The Mentalist on NBC. I don't know who.
No.
Is it on NBC? I don't even know.
Ashley Hamer.
No!
Not her, but her husband. Yes, Ashley Hamer, who's another fantastic science communicator. She's been on multiple great podcasts for Curiosity Daily, and now she has her own.
She's been on this podcast.
Taboo Science. She was here once. She also plays saxophone. But her husband is a mentalist. She is great.
We should have him on, but then he probably would. He'd be. I don't know. It would probably be bad.
We should have him on a future episode to tell us what we're. No, that won't work.
We should have had him on in the past.
We should have had him on, but it's too late. If he was really telepathically
he's going to call us
up,
tomorrow, and he's going to say,
"We'll get a text." Right.
From Ashley tomorrow. If that happens, audience, we will tell you. We will update this episode.
Publishes.
Okay, so I'm at the end. This is the end. It was very interesting. Actually, this last one was even more interesting. There's one more thing I didn't tell you. They did an MRI during this task. The controlman's brain didn't light up in any cool way, but the mentalist's right parahippocampal gyrus was active while picking up their telepathic whatevers. The right parahippocampal gyrus, what's it associated with? I'm glad you asked. Visuospatial processing, episodic memory, scene processing, navigation, and links to new places, like links objects to places. So if you want telepathy to be real, you look at that and go, oh, he's picking stuff up. He's thinking about spaces and where things are. And what I see is he's thinking about where they both were. He's thinking about where they both were and what, because he knows most people, when asked to draw a random picture, are going to draw something similar to what they've already seen recently. Mm-hmm. People are not random. We are not, even computers are not random. There's no random. It's not a thing. So, bottom line, telepathy would feel like intuition. It would just be a gut feeling. So if I got telepathy and I was telepathically communicating to Julian, in a movie you would hear it like, hey, Julian, what's up? How's it going? You know what? You're telepathic now. Congratulations. Well, actually, I'm telepathic. You just are feeling. But in real life, Julian would just feel like it's hard to describe because it's not something that we would associate with regular interaction, but it's like he would just feel that I said stuff. Like he would intuit that I had spoken to him about something.
Right.
Which brings us back to the ancient history thing. The ancient history style of telepathy makes sense. I dreamed a thing. I felt a thing when I was dreaming. I woke up with this feeling that I knew the gods or, whatever wanted me to do this. That is easier for us, I think, to grasp than I'm actively speaking to you telepathically.
To get back to Dala's question, though, because a large part of it also focused on, like, the similarity in the wiring of our brains,
Yeah.
Like, if you could somehow transmit this message, if, like, it entered my brain, would it, I guess, bounce around kind of the same way and get the same message?
Sure.
And offhand, I didn't do the research on this one, so I don't know about that. But it does remind me of something that may not be telepathic, but I think it's super cool, and it's just the phenomenon of empathy, right?
Yeah.
Because we have in our brains neurons that when we like recognize an emotion in another human being, our brains fire in similar pattern.
Yeah, they like sync up.
Yeah.
Music. We are at a concert. if you could see like brain scans of everybody there, their brains are syncing up. If you see emotional things like at a movie theater or a show.
Just an emotion on someone else's face, you know, like when I can tell that you're sad or happy or anything like that. There's research on how our brains fire.
Sync
and
up.
like you said, they fire in similar patterns. And I don't know if that would translate to like, oh, if you think the word apple, like it's going to make some neurons in my brain fire the same way and I'm going to hear the word apple or something like that. But I do think as a real phenomenon that exists that we can observe, that is very cool and interesting, that our brains are at least similar to some degree in how they're...
Yeah, I don't think telepathy is not real. After all of this, I don't think it's like not real. There's no proof that it doesn't exist. There's no proof that it exists either.
I mean, you can't prove something doesn't exist.
Right,
you know?
but there's also no proof that it exists.
There's no compelling evidence.
Right. Could we find something someday that, yes, some people are more intuitive, can feel what other people, more empathetic? You know, we already know more now about how some people are empathic, where they can pick up others' emotions through micro facial expressions and things that you don't even necessarily perceive consciously, but you can feel through your brain, like recognizing those patterns. And which I read this thing about Washington Irving Bishop. He was in 1880s, so like height of the Victorian period spiritualism thing. And he did this show where he would ask an audience member to hide something, and then he would come out into the audience and ask them to recall that location while holding their hand or their wrist. And they could find the object. And what they said is this was due to feeling and listening to their unconscious body cues. And so I think you nailed it. Like telepathy as we know it now, if it exists, is really just reading each other's feelings and thoughts. And when they're particularly strong, like, we can tell. So, like, maybe a mentalist, maybe a fortune teller, a soothsayer, Apollo's Delphi.
Kill your sister's husband with seafood.
Right. You just, like, you mention your sister's husband and the guy cringes and like goes, "Argh," you know, like, you know that maybe he doesn't like that guy. But more nuanced than that, you know? So what would it feel like? It would feel like intuition. It might, if we could someday have a technological way to copy brain patterns from one place to another, we'll know more about how these things work. But the computers that you mentioned where like they read our images, they're trained on our brains. They're not trained on all brains and then all brains think the same way. It's like I look at an apple and they scan my brain, and then I look at an apple again, and they scan my brain again, and they do that again and again and again and again, and eventually they're like, oh, he's thinking of an apple that he's looking at, because I can tell he's thinking of an apple, you know, like we've talked about on the show before. I don't want to just, like, poop all over telepathy and parapsychology. There is a journal of parapsychology, as weird as that is, but yeah, keep asking these weird questions, because I like them. I want to learn more about this weird stuff. So thanks, Dala, for that question. And, you know, thank you for listening.
As always, though, I'm just so precautionary. Whenever there's any sort of mysticism, I'm like, it's fun to a point until it starts, you know, affecting people, until you start going and giving all your savings to an oracle.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
There's a line where it goes from being like, this horoscope thing sure is fun and interesting, to I have to go see my psychic because if I don't understand how to live my life anymore. Yeah. And one of those is fun and like a cool hobby, and the other one is not. It's a little more scary.
Yeah, it's beware. I encourage skepticism.
That said, if you give me crystals, like if you gave, I lived in LA for long enough and I never got one crystal as a gift from anyone, and no one ever saged my house. So I feel like I missed out, you know? I missed out on that like little subculture of Los Angeles. I never got to tell anyone what my sign was, although I did get asked a lot. But all of that is like, it's fun and it is they're interesting tools to think about your life. But like,
I like to pick a sign at random each time somebody says that. Not once has anybody gone, no, I don't see that. Are you lying to me? No. Every single time they're like, oh, of course you're a Pisces. Oh, of course you're a Sagittarius. Oh, that makes sense. You're a Leo. It does make it hard. I have to remember when all these birthdays are. I have to pick like a few. I just remember like relatives' birthdays and what sign they are, and then I pick that.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's
November
smart.
26th, Sagittarius is my dad.
You're doing the same thing that the guy is when he goes to the fortune teller and gives the husband's birthday.
Yeah.
You're just giving someone else's birthday and being like, ha ha ha, I'm so clever. I love it. That's great. Well, thank you all for listening to this episode of That's Absurd. Please elaborate. This episode was produced and created and edited. No, not edited, just written by me, Trace Dominguez.
Yeah, the script was edited, but not the audio.
Yeah.
And by me, Julian Huguet.
And today's show was produced and edited by the wonderful and super duper, you know what? He is telepathic.
Yeah,
he knows
actually.
what we want before we want it.
It's
even
true.
for ourselves. Kyle
As
Sisk.
evidenced with that music.
Yeah, he knew. He felt it.
Perfect. Yeah, that's the music, Kyle. That's exactly what I wanted. This show was also associate produced by Sabrina Capello, music from Epidemic Sound, and our intern is Charlie Woodbury.
Thank you to the listeners who submitted the questions featured in this episode, Ard and Dala. If you want to submit a question, like we said, there are lots of ways to do it. You can email us at hello@that'sabsurdshow.com. You can visit our website, that'sabsurdshow.com/ask. You can call us on the phone or text us, 302-TAPE-SHOW, TAPESHO. Your questions are the lifeblood of the show. We could not do it without them. I love reading all of the new questions. We have so many to get through, and we love seeing the new ones come in. So thank you so much. Everyone who has sent us a question and everyone who's thinking about it, go for it, man. Go for it, woman.
Yeah, we can't receive questions telepathically at
No,
this
that's
point.
one way we don't get the
One
questions.
avenue we don't have. So if you're just
That's right.
thinking it, that's not quite enough for us. You'll have to give us a little more help. Thank you also to our patrons who, like I said, picked the first question on this show. Ard's question
Yeah,
was
woo-hoo.
selected in a Patreon poll. If you want to join our Patreon, you can go ahead and do so. We've got a link in our show notes or patreon.com/that'sabsurdshow. We have to thank our absurd administrators, Adam, Les, Austin, Jonathan, Evan, Dan, Sabrina, the Brain, and Silver Skies. I think Austin's been an absurd administrator for a year now since we opened
Amazing.
the Patreon in the first place, which is incredible. Also, happy anniversary, 6 month, so half anniversary, to Theo, who's been a ridiculous researcher for 6 months. And thank you to new Patreon subscribers, Yarin, Gigi, ForgeBot, and Chris.
Thank you for joining the Patreon. We really appreciate it. We really, really, really appreciate it. The Patreon is how we keep this podcast going outside of the questions, and we are almost at 100 episodes. So if you have ideas for our 100th episode, you better let us know, because, man, we're at episode 96. Wow. Oh, my gosh. Wow.
Been doing this a while.
We have. And finally, a special thanks to those listening on Nebula. They also support the show directly just by watching and listening to our content right there on Nebula. If you want to join or try it out, go to go.nebula.tv/that'sabsurdshow. You'll support the show by trying it out, and you get a discount on a year membership, which is pretty awesome.
Well, Trace, what do we say at the end of every single episode?
Chester is a mammoth, look at his trunk. He's a friend you thunk, he's got a lot of spunk. Chester loves to wander on the snowy ground. He makes a trumpeting sound when friends are be found.
That was adorable. I
Thank
did
you.
not think we were going to get a little Chester the Pygmy Mammoth theme song.
Yeah, Chester's Pygmy Mammoth theme song.
That's
Set
really
to
sweet.
Sloan, to the band Sloan. So thank you, Sloan, for letting me use the tune. I won't tell you the name of the original song because it is a word that rhymes with Chester, and it's not a nice word for the radio. Anyway, Chester, he's got a lot of spunk. He loves to wander on the snowy ground. He makes a trumpeting sound when friends are be found.
When did you write this?
While you were talking.
It's so fleshed out.
Thank you. Thank you.
I was not expecting this. We normally struggle for these.
Well, that's what I was feeling inspired.
I was gonna go with the Oracle told me to kill the baby is not going to hold up in court.
Honestly, equally good.
Also good advice.
Before we end the episode, we have a guest coming up, Danielle DB. She has a podcast called Sex with DB, and it's about sexual health education. So I did this nerd night in San Francisco not that long ago where I ran through the Iocane episode of our show. And when I did that, I met DB, Danielle. She answers all sorts of cool questions related to doing taxes to use the euphemism from earlier in the episode. So if you have a question that is absurd, ridiculous, far out, whatever, about doing taxes, now's your shot. Get it on the show. Send it in to us. Go down into the show notes. Click on the form. Call us on the phone. Whatever, just like usual, because I would love to have Danielle on, but we only have like 4 questions related to doing taxes, and I think we should have, 40 or more. Don't hold back. Ask something crazy. Ask something out there. You never know. Maybe it'll get on the show.